Self, right? All right, here we go. All righty, let's call the meeting to order. Do we have any staff or trustee addition and deletions to the agenda?
Staff has no additions or deletions, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Let's move to adopt the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's open this up for public comments. I've got them here in front of me. We're going the order now. Noah, you've got, just circled these two. Do you want to wait until we cover those items before you make a comment?
I can make a comment either way.
Okay, let's wait till we hit it and then Miss Lindley
The same.
do the same. Okay. All right, I'll wait for those. Let's move on to approving the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we approve the consent agenda. On to our new business. First item up, Mr. Witt. We'll cover that one.
Thank you, board. Well, for those of you who don't know, we've taken on a new venture. I am one of the three owners of Columbia EMS Incorporated. And we are the new vendor that's been awarded the 911 contract that will start in October. Although we plan to have units on the road before October, our official contract starts in October. How this came about was it became apparent to me that the current provider was not gonna bid competitively because they really didn't seem like they wanted to keep the EMS contract and there were gonna be a lot of interest in it. And a couple of us got together and kind of figured that the taxpayer money would be better invested to the company that was built here and founded here and those dollars stay here. So we put in a bid. Our bid was highly competitive and we won. And we are well on the way to establishing this service. We've already started buying equipment. We've hired a medical director. We've hired a billing company. Our state license goes to the state this week. So we're well ahead of schedule for everything we need to do to take this on. We have local financing, so, we're helping out a local financial institution in this too. So this is all local money and these dollars will be spent locally. Our salaries are going to be highly competitive. We're going to have about 35 to 40 staff members. Our EMTs are going to make in the high 60s. Our paramedics are going to make in the high 70s. So these are highly competitive, good paying jobs that we're going to have. Better than what's going on for them now. We have 401k opportunity for them. We believe once we get all our staff hired and figure out what the wellness is of that pool, that we'll be able to be able to have competitive insurance for them as well. So we're doing this right. We're doing this with the community in mind. Our bid was highly competitive because our goal was not to gouge the taxpayer, but to have a competitive return on the amount of investment and risk we took. And so we feel like this is going to be a good thing for the county. The county's not going to run EMS itself. We figure we're the best option besides that option. So what I'm here tonight to discuss with you is I've had some talk with Dale. We need a station in the downtown area. When I was talking to Dale, he suggested looking at building on the old Lakeshore property. It's the old, I guess it was a wellness thing, the gym. What was it, Dale?
It was originally built for EMS. It was originally built back in the late 70s, early 80s. Before the county took over EMS, Lakeshore Hospital operated it, and it was operated out of that building. And I know it's of poor quality, but on your desktop, on the countertop, there is an aerial which kind of shows, if you can see that dark arrow pointing to a building,
Yeah.
you can kind of see where that building is located. Just where you'll know what they have.
So right now it looks to be just a storage building. It's piled almost floor to ceiling with just stuff. It appears to have some kind of leak going on in there that we have looked at and we think we can mitigate. For us to use it, it requires a total renovation. So to have two ambulances stationed there, you know, we'd have to have crew quarters, we'd have to have a little kitchen, we'd have to have a living room area, add a bathroom with showers. So it's gonna require an initial investment, so our ask is that we get the building at very low cost for a certain time to recoup that to recoup that renovation investment. And at the end of that contract, you know, you guys will have a building that's usable where it's not really usable now. And then we could renegotiate terms at that time. And that's really all I have. Any questions?
Are you gonna take over all the utility bills for that building?
We would take care of everything, utilities and maintenance, as long as we had it, it would be up to us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, do you know what kind of junk is in that building?
I do, it's,
Junk?
like, it's over, it's like old furniture from the hospital, that when the hospital or remodeled, they would move furniture and store it over there. There's some old shelving over there, things of that nature. There is nothing in that building that is currently used. Everything there is of a storage nature. So, we obviously would have to get rid of that storage. Whatever my staff wanted to keep, we would relocate to another area. And then we would dispose of the remainder in an appropriate manner. There's nothing in there that's on the physical inventory that I'm aware of. But it's still public property. It's just not of a value that requires it be on a physical inventory.
For sure.
Yes.
Whenever all the trustees have the opportunity to speak on it, I'd like to make a motion. I'll give them the opportunity to do so.
Real quick, just, Todd, I can't, in my mind's eye, I can't see it. Is any of that parcel that they're gonna be using for parking, does that affect the current situation we got with the parking lot for sale?
I don't know, I just got this.
I just looked at it, it
The
doesn't look like
ingress,
it.
and it looks like, without having my overlay of block 111, it looks like the ingress and egress would either be directly in front of the building or off of northeast Leon Street.
Leon,
We would like to put an electric gate, you know, so it stays secure and come in off of Lee.
That would,
And it looks like it's got its own little parking area. I don't know what it was at the time the hospital closed down. I remember seeing activity there. We used to take patients, but I thought it was a wellness center or something there.
well, it was, but originally it was not built for that.
Well, that predates my EMS.
Well, I understand. I don't mean to say it was never used for that. It was, but that was not what it was originally built for. There is an easement just to the east of it that Florida Power and Light holds. They basically have a transformer and they have an easement that runs from Leon Street directly to it.
Yeah, be my only concern is can you know, play nice with the hospital and what they want or the hospital. The folks that are considering using or occupying the entire hospital, making sure you don't play nice with parking.
I think we're far enough away from their operation down there in the corner to where that wouldn't be an issue.
looks like there's plenty of room between the building and Leon.
And we're talking about, you know, 3 or 4 cars there at any given time. We'd have enough parking right in front of our building. We wouldn't even be in your parking lot.
The way I look at it, we could cut off a corner of that parking lot so that you do have extra space if you need it without a problem.
Yeah, I have no issue. I just want to make sure it doesn't gum up the works with anything else. Yes, sir,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Witt, let me show my ignorance on county government. I assume that your contract is for just one fiscal year
It's
or?
for 5 years
Five.
with 2 5-year renewals.
Okay,
That-
oh, good.
As long as we don't, you know, I think we have a 3%, you know, allowance for inflation. But as long as our pricing doesn't out do that, then we have 2 opportunities.
So you're looking up to 15 years. And
We hope this is long term.
I assume by looking at this building, and I remember I didn't go in it, but I looked at the outside. I assume probably several $1,000s to get it up and where you need it. To running, probably a couple $100,000. And I don't have any issues, and Mr. Chair, and I stand ready, willing, and able to second Mr. Bill's motion.
You have anything further, Ms. Chance?
Where would your primary office be?
So we are in negotiation with the county for the old EMS headquarters, the original, yeah, the fairgrounds. And that would be so we would have 2 trucks there, 2 trucks at this site, and then 1 truck down south. And then that 6th truck I was telling you about, it would also run out of the fairgrounds, or it may run out of here depending on the call.
Okay, do we have a price that we want to run it to them for? That,
I think that would be, we
And-
need to negotiate that, I think.
That's what
Yeah.
It's gonna,
I'm gonna push that.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to say we're going to give it to them to use, that they can rent it if we don't have some idea.
well, I think any motion would be subject to the
Yes.
ability to negotiate the terms of a lease.
Yeah.
Relative
Thank
to a starting point and a renewal point, because they would need to have probably a better number on what it's gonna cost to get it to where they want it, and they obviously are not gonna invest that unless they have some commitment here.
Okay, personally, I don't care how much it's going to cost them. I think we need to come up with, if everything were pristine, what we were going to rent it for. And then whatever it costs them, take that much in rental until they get it fixed up, because no matter what, it's a county service. It services all the people that we know. So we want to make it as best we can for them. So let's just say, and God, I hope not, but let's say we rented it to them for $7,000 and it took them 27,000 to do something. Then for how many years we just wouldn't get anything?
That's what you're asking for, right?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Rent it to us figure out what's your fair rental price. We'll negotiate what a fair rental price would be, and then we would kind of let that rent go until we made up what our investment was on the capital improvement.
Mr. Chair, this might save us some time. I don't know if it needs to be in the form of a motion, but I would like for us to give consensus to staff to negotiate with Columbia EMS Incorporated. Ground lease on this building, for fair market value minus whatever investments are made into the building for the first however many years. We'll come off of that, and then once that is leveled off, then we have a lease amount. But I would like staff to work with Mr. Witt.
Is that a motion?
If it needs to be a motion, it's a
At this
motion.
point, it may not need to be.
I don't think it needs to be. I
Yeah,
think
just
it's
a
a
consensus
consensus.
to move forward with negotiations.
I mean, I agree with that completely. It's restating what you said.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't speak as eloquently as Brandon
Mr.
does.
He practices before he comes.
Mr. Chair, I would also say that they need some answers pretty quick, not trying to put pressure on our attorney and Mr. Williams, but if they're up and running in October, this is middle of June.
Go as fast as we can.
That's a quick reno, Mr. Witt.
Yeah, it'll be just where you will know, and I know Todd knows this, because we're a governmental entity. The documentation for the credit you get against the rent is going to have to be in a certain form, be of a certain detail. So when Mr. Powell gets involved, because he's the one that's gonna have to approve all of that for audit purposes, just understand there's got to be a certain amount of documentation on that. It's just what it is.
We don't need to occupy the building before October 1.
Mhm.
If we knew we had a commitment and we could get in there and start working, And we had to wait on documentation. That would not be an issue for us either.
For expediency purposes, is it legal if we do $100 a month, $100 a year, whatever for the first year? No.
You're asking me a question I need to look into, and I think that to start throwing numbers without some idea of what they're gonna be looking at to bring it up to par would be a little premature.
Just wondering if we can look at something to expedite it, so there's not a ton of paperwork to fill out, and then after a year, then we renegotiate and we have a better idea.
That's more of a Mr. Powell question on how we handle the numbers.
As far as the cost, though, I think you could do we bother going with like a BPO, like have a local broker tell us what the rates are?
We staff we can get that once
Yeah.
we get the square footage and an idea of what it's, condition with the assumption of what it would be. You know, in its renovated form, we would need to know that before, and then if we keep moving forward, then obviously Mr. Nick can provide us with a diagram of what it's gonna look like. What a general idea of the improvements are, and that'll give us the idea, the ability, I think, to get, get some competitive rate quotes.
Well, do we need a special meeting? To do
I
this?
think we're
Move it
getting, I
along.
think we're getting the cart way before.
We're getting, yeah. I mean,
I think if we get to the point where we're almost there, if it goes quick, then we can always call one, but I'm
Yeah,
trying
but
to
a
guess.
special meeting takes what, 2 weeks?
I
We
mean,
can schedule one, we can
Well,
always
I can
cancel
tell
it.
you, I won't have too terribly much done in 2 weeks. I mean, my calendar's,
Yeah.
I'm a month and a half out. It's just a matter of getting with Dale and squeezing in 2 or 3 hours here and there over the next couple of weeks with Toby.
well, the one thing Toby and his ownership group can go ahead and do is you can have access to the building. You need to get your contractor in there. You need to look and come up with a schedule of improvements, estimated costs for that. You don't have to do that anyway. So you can go ahead and start on that.
Do we want to put on next month's agenda to surplus all that property and go ahead and get that out of the way, or?
I need to talk to my staff. Let me find out exactly what's over there that they don't want to keep. And then I can provide a list to the trustees, and then we can decide how to dispose of it.
That'll get that part going.
Yeah.
Okay. We got our marching orders.
Did you get everything you needed, bud?
I did. Very much.
Thank you. Well,
I hope I never have to ride in your ambulance.
All right, moving on to the next item of business, review and approval of 2024 fixed asset inventory.
It's that time again, Mr. Chairman, where we need to approve our fixed asset inventory. To make it simple, what was deleted was a battery backup surge protector, a typewriter, and, what was the other thing?
Copy machine?
Copy machine. What was added back was a replacement for that surge protector, a new typewriter, and then a Dymo label writer. So those were the only changes, but with those, we would ask that you approve the fixed asset inventory for 2024.
So it's a new typewriter, they still make them.
Yeah, we have to have them for the forms.
Before we go after this, Noah did request to make a comment on this. So Noah, if you have something you want to say before we get going.
It's the discussion about the main campus is what,
Okay,
sorry.
so, okay, I was just checking. I was like, hang on. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Beal, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, we're good, he answered.
All right, Dale, I'm flipping to it right now. Okay, any further comments by the board members on the fixed asset list?
Make a motion to approve and adopt the 2024 fixed asset inventory.
Second,
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. we
I'm
have an-
sorry.
Okay, motion approved unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to the next item of business, discussion and approval of BA 2024-3 quarterly amendment. The building administration fund.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just to remind the board, you did not fully fund for an entire fiscal year the operation and maintenance expense in the building administration fund. Just to again remind, you did not do that where you would have the opportunity to periodically come back and review those expenses. So we are at the point, in order to continue to provide for the operation and maintenance of those campus buildings, we need a new quarterly budget amendment approved. That would be budget amendment 2024-3. It would be in the amount of $165,980. This would get you through August. So, which is, you'd ask that these be presented on a quarterly basis. So, we would ask that you approve budget amendment 2024-3 in the amount of $165,980. I will also point out, because I've been asked, we do not cash in treasuries or other investments for this. There is enough cash in this account to allocate this money. So it's coming out of cash.
Comments? Wishes of the board?
I move that we approve the BA 2024-3 quarterly amendment to our building administrative fund.
Motion on the floor to approve the BA 2024-3 quarterly amendment. We have a second.
Yes, I will second in the amount of 165,980. I assume that's what it is, correct?
Yes, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the fund. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Miss Chancey, did you say anything?
I did.
I
I
can't
said it.
hear.
I said it first.
Okay, that's fine. All right, motion approved. I'm just making sure my hearing's going bad. All right, moving on to our unfinished business. Before we go on to that, Miss Lindley, I'm trying to keep in front of my comments. Did you want to make a comment about this?
Well, I want to hear what the information.
The update is? Okay, we can do it after the update.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy.
As you're aware, we had the original appraisal, Chase Moses, 88,000.
Mhm.
My paralegal left earlier than I thought she was going to, so names are gonna escape me because I'm not good with getting information off the computer. But we got verbal confirmation from the second appraiser out of Jacksonville. Moody. Okay. The vacant fair market value is 120,000. As is 200,000.
Okay.
And the Masons through their attorney had sent us a comparable, and to be fair and transparent, we sent that comparable to the second appraiser and said, if it's an appropriate comp, please consider it, but obviously we're not in that area, they are.
Mhm.
So at this point, then moving on to number 2.
Yes, sir.
I'd point out that Mr. Dees had indicated that they thought that our 88,000 was a little low. I think they indicated, not in the form of any offer, but they thought the value to be more in the $125,000 range. So it may be that utilizing a subject to me looking at the comparables, it either hit my office late this afternoon or it's going to hit my office in the morning.
Mhm.
But subject to me looking at the comps and their analysis, if the 120 holds up, that's probably, based on my recommendation, a good number to office, since it is the higher of the two. And again, we did provide the information to them that was provided to us by Mr. Dees on behalf of his client.
Thank you. Ms. Lindley, you have a public comment?
Not on this one.
All right. Well, that's what you circled. You sure?
I circled the whole thing.
All right, all right. That works. Okay.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
The,
I knew it was in there somewhere.
The survey,
Yes, ma'am.
was that completed?
Yes,
Yes.
And the parking lot is within the confines of the sidewalk currently? Doesn't infringe upon the actual hospital property?
didn't appear to from me. I'm not a,
Didn't appear to for me.
he's the, afraid the surveyor guy. A little
It
good.
looks like it's,
Yeah, that we, you know, I scanned it. I looked for encroachments, but what my opinion is worth, I did not see anything that would, conflict with the hospital. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Beal.
I would make a motion that we send a check for $120,000 to Lake City Masonic Lodge with a letter explaining that and obviously in attorney lingo, not this, but if for some reason, if we don't hear back within 10 business days, we're assuming that that's them accepting that payment of $120,000. So we can be free.
Yeah, I think it, I don't know that we can put that condition on it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Todd, I think.
I think we tender it and with the necessary paperwork to
How
satisfy
good
the
are the
reverter.
checks for? So my problem is we just approved $165,980. Tired of paying $165,980 every
Yes.
3 months to maintain the building. I want to be done with it. I don't want to approve another budget amendment in 3 months. Are the checks good for 90 days? What's it say on the check? How long is a check good for? I mean, we can't, I don't want to wait 3 months and then find out.
We can
we're
either
going
send the
forward.
check or the money can be put in my trust account. So that we don't have a check floating out there, and those funds could be issued upon and if accepted immediately.
But when do we find out if it's accepted? Do we wait 3 months before we find
Excuse me,
out?
Brandon?
I don't know. I'd have to ask. the
Brandon?
Masons that. I don't know. I could ask Mr. Dees. and-
Not this week, next Thursday. They have a meeting. They have to notify all of the members to attend a meeting to vote on it, which would not happen until the first Thursday in July. That's if they haven't gone dark, meaning no meetings.
That's 3 weeks.
I do not
But it-
advise sending a check and leaving it sit somewhere.
I'm with you on sending the check. It just, in my opinion, if we put it in escrow, then the funds
Yeah.
have left us and they're ready.
I want to give them $120,000.
Yes.
And be done with it. I don't
Right.
care if it's dollar bills, $100 bills, a check, a wire transfer. I want to give them $120,000. I want them to accept it so we can move on with this process.
Yeah,
Well, what I'm saying is there's no way you're gonna get an answer right away.
But if we could get an answer luckily by the first Thursday in July, that's about 3
If they
weeks
have a
out.
meeting, yes.
Well, I would hope something this serious, they would
They don't
consider
think
having.
it's
it.
serious.
Okay, well,
And then we just send them a check and then we move on because that's what the reverter clause says.
and that's why I say if we hand it in. If we give it to Todd, puts it in escrow, then the cash is there. It's not necessarily the offer, it's us completing the transaction.
and I have somebody to work with, Mr. Dees now, who's their attorney, so that may make communications a little easier than.
Simple.
So my recommendation would be to authorize the escrow of $120,000. And I can provide the necessary information to Mr. Dees. As fast as I can get out of my office, hopefully Friday to have them start considering.
Which would mean that they'd be at their next meeting. And then if they have a meeting the beginning of July, you'd have an answer.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Keenan. I'm trying to get the cart ahead of the horse, but if we get an answer back from Mr. Dees, who is representing the Masons, says to no, thank you, what recourse do we have then?
Probably filing a something akin to a declaratory action, asking the court to interpret the reverter clause.
Yes, sir.
And if we don't have any countervailing evidence as to the value, we would have the two values we're offering the highest of the two. And ask the court to, determine that the reverter says they are required to accept the appraised value for vacant land, and it's been tendered. The funds are ready, willing, and able to be distributed, and to then judicially require either the Masons to execute a document to terminate the reverter clause, or have the court in its judgment terminate the reverter clause and direct the money to be sent to the Masons.
Rather than us having a motion tonight, can't we just go ahead and direct you to do that through their attorney in writing? And then, wait to hear from them after their next Thursday meeting that they have, and then it goes before the whole membership. And then hopefully by early July, they'll have a yes or no. If their answer is yes, then we write them a check that 4th, 5th of July, whatever the Thursday is. If not, then proceed through the courts.
I can proceed in that manner.
I mean, I know Mr. Bill had a motion on the table, but
I'll withdraw my motion in support of that.
thank you, sir.
I'll start drafting.
Okay. We covered this too, right? We're on the last, yeah.
Yeah, I did 1 and 2 kind of combine.
Yeah, okay. I want to make sure before I moved on. All right, next item of unfinished business, the update discussions, efforts to provide medical services and or utilize buildings of Lakeshore Hospital campus.
Mr. Chairman, I included in the agenda packet a written report as to the current status. That was done on the 1st. So I'm going to quickly go through these. There has been a few additions. One, as it relates to the main hospital, you just discussed a major component of that as it relates to Meridian. But I also want you to know that Mr. Savoy will be on the next agenda, which is the 8th, July 8th. So he is already scheduled to come and appear before you. So I know that that was going to be a question. When can we speak with Meridian? Make sure they have an update. They're on the next agenda for that, okay? Just to remind you, you did request a 3rd RFP for persons that might be interested in utilizing the Lakeshore Hospital campus buildings. We, of course, issued that. We had a few responses. You asked me to vet those responses. That process has been playing out. You may recall that we received a proposal or a statement of interest from Lifetree Health Services. I have met with the principals of Healthtree, which are Derek and Jamie Neal. We met on a Saturday, took a tour of the buildings. As for me, I was very impressed with the Neals. Both are very educated people. Both are very successful in Duval County. In fact, I had just happened to be watching Jacksonville News, and Lifetree was recognized on one of the news programs for some of their philanthropic activities in Jacksonville. So I made sure and extend to the Neals that I had seen that. And I told them that as soon as they had a proposal put together, I would schedule, even if it required a special meeting, where they could get in front of you and make a proposal. Now, they have a number, or they did discuss a number of things. I don't know exactly what they may have in mind, but we showed them all buildings. They saw all buildings. In addition to them, I know the county still has an interest in that 2-story women's center. You know the situation there. We discussed it. We vetted it, and I think we're waiting on any action there to see if there's a medical use that would take precedence. The physical therapy building, tomorrow, we have a meeting with Miss Mayo. We being Todd, Richard and I, so that is progressing. And hopefully by the next meeting, we will have some framework of a business model to present to you that you can discuss. The dental program, I talked to you about the efforts I've made with the Columbia County Public Health Unit. Since then, I've come up with another proposal, or not another proposal, but another possible solution. I think it's the 20th before I'll get a chance to meet with that party, but we may actually have two different avenues here to participate in a dental program. So we'll see how that plays out also. I indicated at the time of this writing that FAMU had not had the opportunity to come and look at the buildings. That has now changed. Dr. Spates, who's the dean, one of the deans there at Florida A&M, she and part of her staff came over and we did get an opportunity to tour the buildings. Because they're a major state university, it become pretty obvious that they have a large net they can cast. I mean, there was really nothing in the whole arena of medicine that they didn't discuss. So I know Dr. Spates was going to go back and meet with her deans at Florida A&M. And from there, they were going to try to zero in on what maybe they thought Columbia County and Lake City could do and they could support. I have to believe that whatever that is, there's an educational component to it because that's what they're in the business of doing. You know, I've freely told everybody that up to date, up to this point, the authority has not really wanted nor found justification to subsidize. So everybody understands and knows that. That's not something that was not discussed. We continue to try and have meetings with UF Shands. I no longer have any contacts there. They've all retired, moved on, gone. They've got a complete change of staff. You know, the CEO's new, the director of nursing is new, staff physicians new. So Sonia continues to call and we are promised we'll get the opportunity to have a meeting, but that is not yet materialized, but we continue to try. And let's see, what was the last one here? As far as Lucretia, the phlebotomist who you all met, we kind of have her in a holding pattern. You know, she's pretty much a single office type medical provider. And we don't exactly know where or how that'll fit in, but certainly whatever primary care service program we come up with, we'll try to make an available opportunity for her also. So those are kind of what's been going on. The hardest part here is what's always been the hardest or most difficult part. Time is of the essence. And, you know, we, particularly when it comes to organizations like Florida A&M, it's hard to pin them down on time. I do think there's an interest, but I don't have a time frame we can expect a response. So we'll continue to work towards that as we work through other things, but that's kind of where we're at with those proposals.
Ms. Chance, you.
Am I correct in understanding FAMU's interested in the hospital itself?
They were very impressed with the hospital. Now, Dean Spates, you know, her thing was, wouldn't it be an appropriate time for, and I'm paraphrasing, but for Florida A&M to look at educational opportunities that go beyond what we currently do into other areas of medicine. Now, that's a big sale for her to go back to the deans, but I would say, yeah, they were interested in a lot of that stuff.
So if we give it away, they won't be here.
Well, they know, I mean, we discussed, I mean, everything's open. They know exactly where we're at with Meridian and what we're doing, the time frame. I'm pretty sure I told them that, Mr. Savoy would be here on July the 8th. I mean, it's all been in the open. I mean, there's no need, I mean, we've discussed it. It's there. So I make sure they all know it.
Before we go much further, y'all, we got two folks have requested public comment on this before we do it. Let's knock those out. Miss Lindley, I'm gonna grab you first. That's all right.
Thank you very much. I've stood in front of this podium for several times, several years, stating that when you became a board member, you took an oath of office to follow the enabling legislation. This is not a legally constituted board. There is no doctor on the board because there is no hospital. And I only ask you to get Mr. Kennan to ask for an attorney general opinion to find out, because you guys have been negligent in following that. And I think that if the thing with Meridian falls through, you screwed up again. Because you've been dallying around for Florida A&M, they want to come. Well, they should have known sometime back. So I don't think anything should happen with them. There, as Dale said, he said no money comes with it. But, we've been dangling in front of Meridian. They're ready to move forward. And I think that hopefully the parking lot situation will be resolved and it can be turned over to Meridian. And these other entities, maybe they need to go with Meridian and say, well, let us use the OR room for a birthing center. And this board has not followed the enabling legislation. You're looking to maybe see if you can find somebody medically interested in the women's center. Give it to court administration and be done with it, because you don't follow the rules anyway.
Thank you, Miss Lindley. Mr. Wall.
Thank you. Want to recognize that what you guys are doing here is hard, right? Not easy. And I'm probably going to make it a little harder, right? So I apologize for that. But I'm going to share a couple things with you guys, and then I'm going to ask you to do something. So the things that I'm going to share with you is that I believe in Lake City. I love Lake City. I plan to raise my family in Lake City. I believe in the future of Lake City. I think it's a great place full of great people. The other thing I want to share with you is over my 6 years at Lake City Medical Center, one of my favorite things to do is to go to the cafeteria either during breakfast or during lunch and sit down with a random nurse. Typically the older nurses, because I like to hear about their experiences during their careers of 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And one of the questions I would always ask them, mostly the guys would be, what was the craziest experience? It's the craziest experience we've had in healthcare. I would say 90% of those answers were working in a medical psych unit or a mental health unit. And expanding upon that, I'm going to get graphic here. So there would be fist fighting with patients, aggravated and violent patients, temporarily held over patients in Baker Act, breaking up rape, having excrement thrown on them, et cetera, et cetera. I know that you guys have toured Meridian, and I know that they are a good company, right? And they've given you assurances that it will be a lockdown facility and that nobody will be released onto the streets. But what I ask you is, what assurances have they made in regards to the people they can't overwhelm who make it to the door? Because that happens in healthcare, and those people will be butt naked and having just come up from a violent altercation, fighting the nurses, overpowering nurses within 100 yards, 200 yards of a playground, somewhere that, I love to take my family and walk. What happens then? And I'll share something else with you guys. During the Rotary presentation to our 7 a.m. club, Meridian came, and this is really kind of why I'm here. They did a presentation on what they do in the community, their mental health response unit, what they were looking to do at the hospital. Part of that was a DOC contract, a Department of Corrections, where they would bring in part of their incarcerated mentally ill and house them here for treatment. Mental health is a large stigma, right? There's a big stigma around mental health, and personal mental health is extremely important. And medical mental health is extremely important, and this is a segment of our community, nationwide, citywide, countywide, that's often neglected. And they need a place, they need help, they do. I'm not denying that. But what I'm asking you to consider is where that place is. Is it the right place just because we have the facility to make it downtown Lake City? And I know Miss Limley, again, you guys have a hard job, and she's right. This has been a prolonged process. You guys have heard a lot of proposals. But as a concerned citizen here in this community, I think that Meridian may be the wrong play for downtown, just for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Walker. Discussion of the board members.
I have a comment to make. Thank you, Noah. I very much agree with you. We have a playground here. You're not gonna take your kids where child molesters might get to them. We also don't want to draw all the drug dealers, and that comes along with mental health hospitals. Just saying. Okay?
Any further comments, discussion?
I could talk for an hour,
Well done.
but I'm not. But I will say this, we have vetted this. Mr. Walker, I walked the streets of downtown talking to business owners, property owners. I have spoke to the clergy. I have spoke to the politicians. I have spoke to law enforcement, both the city, the county. I have spoke to the courts. And we have Mr. Kennan here, who we have entrusted in him to, before I finally put my signature on Meridian, I will assure you that they will have the tightest security. When I met with Mr. Savoy, he assured me that their security would be tight. If it requires that we put a 12-foot razor wire fence around the complex, we may even require them to do that. But everybody that I talked to was in favor of Meridian. Now, it's been 18 months. This was back in February of 2023. I spoke to the mayor. I spoke to the city council members, and they all were in favor of it. And I agree with you. As far as being involved for 38 years myself in the judicial system. But where there's a way, there's a will, and where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that it can work. And as you mentioned, and I agree with you, there is a big need for mental health in every community. And not just here in Lake City. Now, I was not aware until you mentioned about the DOC contract. And I will ask Mr. Kennan to verify that through the legal aspects of Meridian, because I was not aware that that they were going to have a contract with the DOC. I thought DOC was treated at RMC at the Reception and Medical Center there in Lake Butler, and the other two reception centers that they have around the state for the mentally imbalanced, so to say. But I understand, and I appreciate you coming here tonight and mentioning this. because it is a concern of mine. That's why I walked the streets back in, January of 2023 and February, talking to the business owners as well as the property owners, regarding your same concerns. But I again appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any further comments?
Yeah.
No further comments. We can, believe we can bring the meeting to a close. Is that correct, Dale?
Board member comment. real quick?
Yeah, we can do board member comments.
Was approached by a captain with the sheriff's office. Interested in possibly utilizing the building, possibly even just one time for some training. I don't know if you've heard anything from them or not, but you good if
I have not recent, but I have previously denied those requests. One is because of insurance,
So,
and two, if we do allow it, y'all need to limit what they can do in there, cause they go to popping smoke and stuff like that. That's not good. Not in a building that we're trying to repurpose.
I just said I would relay the message.
Yeah, well, I mean, I made an administrative decision. It's your decision if you want them there, but I normally get called the day before they want to use it. And therefore, there's not time to bring it to you. But I know that there was an issue with insurance in the past. And they would have to provide some form of, of course, I know they all have coverage.
yeah, they could get a COI, but
Yeah, but nonetheless, you wouldn't be covered under your policy is what I'm trying to tell you. And then there are just certain things they do in some training exercises you don't want to be done in a building that you're trying to reuse, repurpose. Now, whether they would do those or not, I don't know, but you need to make sure. So do you wish for me to allow that? If you do, I'll do my very best to try and protect it, but when I get last minute requests to do that, I say no.
I can tell you, in my opinion, I'm with you. I get nervous about what the exercise is gonna do. And, hard charging through a door, simulating X, Y, and Z, makes you wonder, okay. We've already cut our insurance down to the bone. I get nervous about them mobilizing here, and what if we miss a step?
Well, and not that anybody locally would do this, but you recall during the hurricanes, we allowed people to quarter there from the National Guard. I'm not sure we got that mess cleaned up yet. That was months ago. I'm not saying they destroyed property, they didn't, but there's a cause and effect.
Yes, ma'am.
That makes me think of something else. They said we're gonna get hit with a lot of hurricanes this year. Are we gonna open our facilities to house people? Something to think about for next meeting.
Kennedy, any closing
No,
thoughts?
none.
Anything else, Mr. Bean? All right. Let's,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I
yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
you may have already done this, but if
Yes,
you've
sir.
not, I want to remind you that you have an obligation to do your financial disclosures. It's due before July 1. This year, you have to do it online, and in order to do that, you'll have to open an account. So if you feel comfortable doing it, fine. Sonia is going to go through my personal one, just where she'll better understand it, and she can help any of you if you want her to help. But it does come now, non-compliance comes with like a $50 a day fine for every day you're late. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't already done it, to make sure you do it.
Do that. All
Did mine on May 17th.
Was it hard, Don?
Easy. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's like, it's sitting on my check. I just haven't done it yet. It's sitting there.
I'd be glad to.
That ain't what I got.
You don't have to buy my lunch.
I gotta tell it to them.
I'm retired.
Smaller than me.
All right. Unless anybody's gonna stop me, I'm gonna say we're adjourned. We're adjourned.
Get you, but some good.